All right. So good morning to everybody, and I hope you got out last night. If you want good recommendations for an Italian restaurant that doesn't cost you much and isn't fancy, I can give you that. I have a very targeted range, but I know one area in San Francisco really well. So if you're into Italian, you can ask me for a recommendation. Be happy to give it to you. So we have a couple people here that I'm really excited to talk about. And are going to give us hopefully some insight on the state of the online real estate category and where it might be headed. And Sami Inkinen is co-founder and chief operating officer of Trulia, who I'm sure most of you are familiar with. And Louis Cammarosano is general manager of HomeGain. And what I'd like to do is start out by asking you both to sort of assess the state of the category right now. And I'll put that in context by sort of giving you my take, and that is that we still haven't really figured out what the winning business model is in online real estate. We have Move.com, which is a $300 million company and has been around and still leads by a lot of measures. But nobody has really blown away the category and come out as a clear winner. So with that, Sami, what's your take on where things are at?
So I think there was something in the description that, we're already 15 years into the online real estate and no one has really figured out, like you said, what's the winning model. Using that, I would say, well, the American car industry is more than 100 years into their business. They still haven't really figured out how to make money and how to be successful. So I'd say in that respect, we're ahead of the curve. So Louis, congratulations. We have a lot of time to figure that out.
You're younger than I am.
Yeah, but in all honesty, I actually disagree with you. I do think we know what's the model that works. And there's a couple of ways to look at this. And the first way to answer your question is, first of all, running a business is not like baking a muffin, where you try to figure out the recipe, you put the dough into the oven, and then it comes out that it's done. I don't think business is ever done. And I really like the quote by Jeff Bezos, who's the CEO of Amazon, who keeps saying that it's always day one. It's always day one. And the day you think you're done, someone's going to come and eat your lunch or your muffin or however you look at it. So I would say the first thing is to realize that what worked yesterday may not work tomorrow. So it's very rarely there's one approach or one model that works forever. And Realtor House Values was a fantastic business. I think it was a great model. I assume a lot of happy clients. They turned a lot of cash for the company. It worked very well. But the day you think you're done, you are actually done. So the two cornerstones that we've tried to build our business at Trulia is first, to be the most customer-centric organization in this space, and then two, innovation, innovation, innovation. So it's always day one for us. So that's kind of one way to think about your question. The other one, which I'm sure everybody's waiting here to hear, what's the business model that works today? What is it that works today? And I'm sure Louis will have a different kind of answer, so I can only speak on behalf of us. But what's working very, very well for us is, number one thing, provide a fantastic consumer experience. It all starts from a consumer experience that brings the consumers to our service at very little cost for us, practically zero marginal cost. So fantastic consumer experience. On top of that, free listing syndication, something that we introduced 2005. Companies, Realogy Alex is sitting there, started endorsing it. And today, I'd actually like to ask a question. How many agents are there in this room today who do not syndicate listings to any of the online real estate sites? How many agents are there here today? So I think that's one example that the free listing syndication is working very well. And on top of that, for us as a business, we layer a media model. So sometimes I've used the analogy that if you think of us as an airline, take Virgin America, the free listing syndication is like a free economy ticket from, say, New York to San Francisco. And then the media model, the premium services that we are selling, it's like the extra legroom, the business class ticket, the first class ticket, and it's working very well for us. So we give as much for free as possible, free listing syndication being the key part, and then we have this media model on top of that.
Okay, so let me push you on that a little bit. So I take your point, and you've absolutely overcome sort of the political hurdle, and you've changed behavior in the category. I think companies like Trulia and HomeGain, there was a lot of static early on. They were perceived as a threat, now largely perceived as a partner. Syndication has become accepted, and it's free. And you cite the Virgin America model and upgrades and all of that, but what I hear in the category is lots of talk about traffic, engagement, page views, but very little about revenue, right? I don't hear anybody saying, we are really breaking away from the pack. I hear nobody saying we're profitable. When is that going to happen? I mean, you've given away so much for free. What are the challenges you face in terms of monetizing all of that traffic?
Tough question, so I take a hit here. But how else could we afford to buy dozens of tickets to a conference like this unless we were making good revenue? So we have Rudy and bunch of people sitting there. So obviously we're a privately held company, so I don't want to go into very details, but the model is actually working very well for us. This is the third year ever for us to sell anything. So this is the third year ever for us in revenues. We are 8 figures, very close to profitability, 8 figures in annual revenues. Revenues growing 10% month over month, not year over year. And last month, July, which was very exciting for us, was the highest ever month in unique users, consumer visits, customer satisfaction, page views, and revenues. So the model is working very well for us, but you need extremely large scale. So we have pretty high fixed costs. All the engineers, Rudy's of the world, these are talented, expensive people. However, the marginal cost of acquiring a client, acquiring a consumer is very, very low. So high fixed cost. It's extremely scalable model, extremely profitable if you are at large scale. So if you are the 10th largest company in this category, our model would never work. But if you are one of the very top players, it's extremely, extremely scalable.
Okay, so thank you for sharing some of that. Louis, so you run a company that was really born in the early days of online real estate, had a successful exit in 2004, and has continued to be a significant player in the category. Sort of in between all of those things, this Web 2.0 phenomenon came onto the scene. You have companies like Sami's, you have companies like Zillow, hundreds of others, literally. What is your take on the category?
Well, what we've focused on always, so we talk about innovation, 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 our 3 things are realtor, realtor, realtor. We are a marketing service for real estate agents. And we make sure that whatever we do, however the website is set up, is designed to connect the consumer with the real estate agent. And that's a winning model. And as you mentioned earlier, in the early days, all you had to do was put up a form. Consumer went there, filled out the form, and you passed that along to a consumer, and you made money. It's a little more difficult now, but our model is still basically the same. We focus on our customer satisfaction. Our customers make money. We just had our event over at HomeGain Nation at the Fairmont, and we celebrated our customers' success. We've got 2 people who've made $1 million in the last few years. We've got 17 that have made $500,000. We've got 400 that have made $125,000. We've got 1 individual using our products will make $1 million this year. So we're looking at it not as a consumer resource, as Truly is, but more as a marketing resource for real estate agents. So we measure our success not in terms of page views and number of visits, but how much money our agents make using our products.
Okay, so...
Can I comment on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
And I'm actually, first of all, I should say that it sounds like I should become a realtor and sign up with you guys. These guys are doing good money. The challenge, and I've talked about this with Louis, the challenge with that type of model today and going forward, and I'm sure you will out-innovate this, but the real challenge is the consumer experience with a lead form is pretty much non-existent. And the consequence of that is, if your consumer experience is lead form, no consumer is going to go and say, hey, that was a fantastic lead form, I'm going to go back to it. And as a result, your customer acquisition cost, the consumer acquisition cost is very high because you need to buy traffic, you need to advertise yourself, and get the consumers to that lead form. As opposed to a model that we have, which I agree, it's very focused on consumer satisfaction, page views, repeat usage. But the benefit of that is we practically pay nothing for acquiring the consumers, apart from the high fixed cost of engineers and running the company. So going forward, it is difficult and probably not that sustainable model to be profitable in acquiring consumers to the lead form.
I agree with that, Sami, and we don't just put a lead form up. We do have significant content in the last couple of years. We've added it to the site. But I'm fond of saying that, a lot of these new companies have a lot of content, and so does the public library, and either make a profit. So what we are really looking at is trying to provide just the right amount of content on the HomeGain site, which prompts the consumer to realize that they're going to need a real estate agent. I think the problem with too much content on the site is the consumer thinks this is a great resource, and they fall in love with the website that's providing it, and then you're going to make your money from advertisers, not from real estate agents, because you're not really there to connect the consumer with a real estate agent. So we have content on our site that's designed to connect the consumer with the real estate agent. We have the agent blogs. We have the agent profiles. We have our instant home valuation tool, which provides a range and begs the question, what is my house really worth? Let me ask the question. So we don't just have lead forms. We also give the consumer contact points. They can respond to blogs. They can call. They can email. So you're right. You can't just put up a form, but there is a balancing act that you have to play. Do you have a lot of content and sell ads, or do you provide just enough content to engage the consumer so they realize they need to contact the real estate agent? We've done that. We've managed to navigate through the last couple of years and continue to send our customers high-quality leads where they continue to make money. We have customers that tell us they'd be out of business if it wasn't for HomeGain. They make 30% of their business on HomeGain. I doubt anyone says, I own my business practice because I answer questions on Trulia Voices. So that's great content, but I'm not sure that it's designed to connect the consumer to a real estate agent. I think it's designed to connect the consumer to an advertiser.
Yeah,
Okay, so let me just an observation on that. I mean, so what I'm hearing is Sami's very focused on the consumer, delivers an awesome experience. Louis is focused on the realtor and delivering business to the realtor, okay? So it sounds to me like you guys should merge and form a company called HomeGain. And I don't say that, I'm half serious here. I mean, so you're very focused on the consumer experience while also partnering with the agents. You're, probably don't provide as rich of a consumer experience.
And we partner more with the consumer.
How do you combine that? Wouldn't that be the larger opportunity?
We have talked, Sam and I have talked not about a merger, but about how you work together. And I think that the trouble is, once somebody has received so much free information, by the time they've done that, the real estate agent is the sideshow. So how do you get the two together?
Obviously, the growth that I mentioned and the revenue scale that we have today, that would not be reality if we just focused on a consumer. We've always been very customer-centric. We have a couple of customers. We have the consumers on the other side of the table, and we have the real estate industry, the agents and brokers on the other side of the table. I think one of the things that we've done relatively well, we're working hard on it, we can improve, is balancing these two main constituents. And we've been actually, based on the feedback from our partners and clients, we've been very much focused on connecting the consumers with the agent in the past 12 months. And, leads is one of the ways that our partners measure the success and the value that we're delivering. And I think it was 3Y that published some numbers in May. Out of the 21 or 22 sites where they syndicated listing content in the US, which pretty much includes all the online real estate players, and granted it didn't include HomeGain because you don't have a listing service, Trulia was the #1 lead generation in the month of May in the US in terms of total volume of business sent to the real estate agents through, I think, like 700 or 800,000 listings. So connecting those consumers with the realtor is definitely one thing that we absolutely focused. If we weren't, we'd be pretty quickly out of business.
Right. There's a reason, though, that we weren't included in that, because our listing service, basically, if a consumer wants to see listings, we send the consumer directly to the agent's site. And that's the product called Buyer Link, where they get to the agent's site, and that's where we have agents making, one agent will make $1 million this year, other agents making hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we don't have the listings on our site in most instances, but we send them directly out. So in terms of leads, those leads are far better than one who come to your site and eventually click off after they've seen a bunch of listings to the agent site.
Can I give a quick comment on the Trulia Voices? Because
Certainly.
that really hurt my heart when you said
No, hold
Trulia
on.
Voices. It's not serious, because that's the one thing
We need to
been
get
doing.
that guy Peter up here again to have some healing. But just, I was going to ask you about community. Okay, so Trulia Voices, really, you had that in the market for 2 years now?
We've had about 2 years this summer,
Okay.
yeah.
So you got huge participation there, both from agents and consumers. So, and I'll ask this to you later, because you've layered on some of this Web 2.0 stuff on top of your lead form. What is the value? I mean, what are you hearing from agents and consumers in terms of the value derived from that? Because I hear that all the time. You know, all this social media stuff, everybody's talking. What of it?
Yeah, so obviously I could give bunch of statistics, but statistics are very boring, so I'm not going to say how many consumers there are, how many agents, and how many leads they receive on average. But luckily, just 2 days ago, I spoke with one of the, Debbie, I don't know if she's here, she's one of the most active agents on Trulia Voices, and I saw her at the real estate bar camp. And she came to me, and one thing that was extremely exciting for me to hear was she said, first of all, she's receiving a ton of real business through Trulia Voices. But more importantly, what she told me, really, I thought, that's interesting. I didn't even think about it, was the consumers who get in touch with her, contact her through Trulia Voices, they actually do their homework first. So they read her answers back 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, and they're asking and mentioning things to her that she didn't even remember. So they're really kind of trying to figure out whether she is the best person to get in touch with, the person who really knows the local market. And as a consequence, this was exciting for me to hear from her, she said the loyalty of these users, these consumers, buyers and sellers who start working with me is double compared to the sort of the traditional people who get in touch with her through sort of a lead form type of lead capture. So the loyalty was double, and then the conversion in terms of, okay, I start working with 10 people, how many of these actually buy? She said was double as well. And these were her words, so I don't have a statistical sample to prove this, but if anyone's interested in getting in touch with her, you can, but she's a fantastic example how the community can work. And I think, I'd quickly finish, the mindset of consumers is moving towards that kind of behavior where they do their homework first and they choose who they want to work with rather than they hand it over to someone. And just from a personal experience, I'll give you an example. I think I represented a little of the younger generation. I screwed up my upper back, and my general practitioner doctor sent me to like a specialist, gave a name and said, go here and see this doctor in San Francisco. The first thing I did was I went to Yelp, I went to Google, I Googled this guy, and I researched the heck out of it to make sure that whoever starts fixing my back is the very best expert in the area. And I think the same is happening in the online real estate experience. Consumers are much more likely to do their homework very, very well before they kind of say, okay, this is the person I want to work with. And I think that can be, I'm sure you guys have ideas in this balance of content and lead form. But that's one of the things that I'm sure you're addressing and you have to address going forward.
I think there's a lot to learn from each other, but when I hear these types of anecdotal successes, a ton of, a lot of, it's kind of disconcerting because we can point to, in our model, 383 Diamond Club members, 300 members making $125,000, 600, you know, we have the metrics. We can show what HomeGain members make. Whereas I hear these nice concepts that if you do this and you do that, you get engagement, you get transparency, but do you really get sales? And we could talk to one person and she can say, yes. I can point to thousands. Yeah. I can put you in touch with them. They came to HomeGain Nation to celebrate their successes, 100 of them. Yeah. So I think there is something to learn. You have a fantastic site. There's a tremendous consumer experience, and we have learned from that. And I think, again, you know, to quantify your agent successes is very important, not just through having a conversation with one who says, nice job, these are great consumers. Yeah. And another thing I think is people like to talk about the consumer as if there is one, or a certain generation as if everyone acts the same way. And
we actually keep the consumer in the back.
He's over there, the consumer, right?
In a cage.
I think that's a mistake because I'll give you an example on the, a lot of HomeGain customers require before listings are viewed to register their consumers. And a lot of people in this room, if you ask them, they say, would you ever register on our site? Oh, I would never do that. And I would say never base your marketing decisions based on what you would do or anybody in this room would do, but what do people actually do? A lot of our agents show 16% will actually register to view listings, and that number has not gone down in 4 years, in spite of all the wonderful things that are out there. And when a consumer registers on your site, agents can then convert those into real money. Now, we don't advocate all the time that you put the registration form up, but when you do, it does work. So if you start to think, I'm not going to do it because no one else is doing it, or I wouldn't do it, that's not really the right way to look at marketing, because I think we all get caught up in, this is a very advanced group. The consumer out there doesn't know much about real estate. They probably don't even know what Trulia is or HomeGain or even Zillow is. They go on site and they're looking for real estate information, but they're really probably looking eventually for a real estate agent to help them buy or sell a home. The experience, we say we give a fantastic real estate experience. What's a better real estate experience? Answering questions, having a good time, back and forth on a block, or selling your house for $600,000. I think that's the ultimate thing the consumer wants, not necessarily the experience. And that's what we try to provide. We try to match consumers with real estate agents so the agent makes money and the consumer ends up happy.
So I need to give you quickly credit. These guys have done a fantastic job monetizing the agents, frankly much better than we have. But I would highlight that one of the reasons you know and you can tell the statistics so well how much money you are making is because if you're an agent, you get nothing for free from HomeGain. In the case of Trulia, go to the site, use Trulia Voices, no cost. Granted, I don't know how much you got business. I don't have the statistics, but what I can tell, it doesn't cost you anything. You can, like I said, you get the free economy ticket from San Francisco to New York or New York from San Francisco. Everybody wants that. So we don't charge, I'd say 90% of the value that we deliver, we don't charge anything. The reason we can do that and still be in business is because our cost of acquiring the consumers is very low, because we have a fantastic consumer experience. So very different models, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but the reason you know so well is every time an agent gets something from you, you charge. Every time you get something from us,
actually,
9 times out of 10, it's free.
In one of our models, we charge only if the agent completes the deal. So our success is directly tied to their success. I think with the free, everyone loves free, but then everybody hates ads.
Yeah.
So you have a model where you've got, let's have it for free. Everybody likes that part, and then you have to sell the ads. So that I think is a conflict as well. On HomeGain, where an agent is featured, there are no ads. There's no competition with advertisers, competing brokers. I think when you throw up a lot of content in order to monetize it, you're going to have to, by definition, put up a competing broker, a competing agent, a Netflix ad, a Weight Watchers ad, whatever it might be. And I think that distracts the consumer as well from ultimately connecting with the real estate professional.
Okay, let me ask you another question, because we're a little bit short on time, but I'll ask this to both of you the same way. So you guys have established yourselves as leaders in the category. You've been around, and in some ways I think you could be considered the big media of online real estate. What we have out there now as well is all this innovation that's going on with individual realtors, individual brokerages. Ultimately, do you think that, does that worry you long term? That if a brokerage gets its act together and creates a killer destination, and whether they're converting leads, with a form, or whether they're really nailing social media, do you think that, that's going to sort of erode your position over time, or do you feel pretty confident about that?
First of all, I was hoping that you would call us a Web 2.0 darling, like it was in the brochure, but calling me a darling in San Francisco on stage is kind of dangerous.
If you'd like me to, I could.
Depends on how you look at it. But no, I'm not concerned at all. In fact, I want the brokers to succeed and build super, super fantastic websites. In fact, we have these broker CEO summits all over the country. We just had one 2 days ago. And one of the key topics is what should you do online? How should you build your website? So I'm not concerned about that at all. And then obvious question is there a role for a independent, consumer-focused online real estate site versus the broker's site? It's a bad analogy, but if you're buying a car, you love the Mercedes-Benz or the BMW or Toyota site, but you still see a lot of value in an unbiased, non-affiliated service that gives you the full broad spectrum of viewpoints. And that's how we view We want the brokers to have super, super fantastic websites. In fact, we give a lot of our tools and widgets and content away for free for these guys, and just give free consulting and help them. So I don't see conflict from consumer perspective.
So gotcha. Because
Nor do I.
let me ask you this question. So the industry's kind of figuring out technology, really adopting it. I think we're really getting to a critical point here. If an agent gets their act together, why do they need HomeGain?
Well, they need HomeGain because they're not going to aggregate 200 or 300 partners to deliver that traffic to them. HomeGain acts as kind of a co-op for them. If they don't want to go out and manage millions of keywords, they don't want to spend the time doing the marketing, what HomeGain does is provides automatic traffic and visits to your website and contact points, so you don't have to do that. And then you can focus on selling real estate.
Okay, gotcha. Well, we're out of time, guys, and I want to thank you, for engaging in this conversation. And I still think that the answer here is TrueGain. So maybe next Connect we'll have an announcement.
Do the announcement.
Thank you, guys. All right.
Well done.
Thank you. I appreciate it.